Okay, I saw this video and I thought it would be a good one to do because it's something that I've talked about in the past. And yeah, let's watch it.
Hello. I don't know if anyone does live commentaries anymore where they talk about something that's happened in their life and the background is, gameplay. But that's what this is today. So, something a bit different. It's still Halo gameplay as you'd expect from this channel. But the topic of discussion is that
Halo
I
looks
just
different
lost
now.
my job.
Jeez.
And I lost
Oh
it
man, it
to
sucks.
AI, which is very unfortunate.
This is something that I think about a lot, and I think that we're all going to have to start tackling as a society before a super long time. I think, and people always think this is an insane thing, but I think that in the next 30 years, 50% of people will be unemployed because they'll be unemployable. Not because they're sitting around not wanting to get jobs, but because there are no jobs for them. If you think about all the things that artificial intelligence is doing right now, such as taking over in fast food restaurants. They say that they can load trucks with them now. They say that they can drive trucks with them now. All these different jobs that people have that employs the mass amount of people. Like we think of jobs as being office jobs, even though a lot of those will probably be gone too. But we think of them as being office jobs, but really the majority of people in America are employed by blue collar jobs. And I think that those are first on the chopping block for artificial intelligence. And yeah, I think that if we don't start destigmatizing unemployment now and start working towards a system that will still somehow take care of people, there will be riots in the streets. People want to just think about themselves, but if 50% of Americans, let's just say, are unemployed, there will be riots in the streets. People will not starve in mass like that. Guaranteed. They will eat other people first.
I think many people joke about you know, the fact that, oh, AI is going to take all our jobs and we're all going to get replaced, and especially within my industry, which is graphic design.
Graphic design. There it is. So, exactly. Graphic design has become a field where basically artificial intelligence can do work that people who have worked in graphic design for 4 or 5 years cannot do. It. I don't know if you know any graphic designers. I know quite a few. And they all have their own style, right? They all have their own design work. They all have their own sort of set style. And that's the thing that's really set them apart. You know, I have a friend who draws on a very cartoony style and makes a lot of flyers for people and does a lot of things for people of that nature. And his style is what drew people to him. But if all of a sudden you can not pay somebody and use a program and start generating images that look like his style or look like the Mona Lisa, well, then all of a sudden this becomes a whole different game, right? Your style won't set you apart anymore. Your skill level will have to set you apart. That you'll have this you'll have to be a 1 in a million person to compete with AI, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. And most people aren't 1 in a million people. That's not how statistics works. And we're going to come up against a point where unless you have a ton of different skills that all mesh in this way that's so specific that it makes you somehow inherently valuable, which is a difficult thing to explain. You're not going to be able to get work. You're just not. Gone are the days of you being a specialist and being able to do something better than 90 other people so you get the job. That's not what's going to happen in the future. AI is going to take all those jobs.
Um, my job, I've been a graphic designer for the past 8 years of my life, and I've worked at this specific company for 6 years. You would think that being one of the longest running employees, being there 6 years, having a wage increase almost every year, and being very much valued because I was the only graphic designer left, you'd think they wouldn't keep me on as much.
No, they don't because they can save a lot of money by just getting rid of you. You got a wage increase every year. Yeah, you are really valuable, but the second that you stop being valuable to a business, they will just axe you. That's how business works. It's cold and unfeeling, and that's not right in my opinion. But that's what it is. Unfortunately, you're not valued for how long you've been in a business. You're valued for what value you can provide to the business. And historically, that's what we've always said to people whenever we say, well, how do I get a job? Well, you create value in yourself. You find ways to provide value to people who make money, and then they give you money that's a little bit less than that value that you provide them is the idea. But when there's a tool that comes along that makes you useless, and I don't mean that as a derogatory mark. I mean, artists are amazing. I'm an artist. I have played music for coming up on 2 decades now. I have lots of friends who are artists. The training of yourself to do something that's that ethereal, that's that difficult to nail down, is a really beautiful thing that people do, and it's one of my favorite parts, if not my favorite part of all of existence. I mean, this is part of that, you know. But when a tool comes along that they can just buy for a few $100s and replace an employee who's making 110 grand every single year, and they only have to pay that $300 once, well, they're probably going to take that tool. And it's unfortunate. I'm not saying it's not, but it is what's happening. And things don't go back inside of the box. Technology, the magic never goes back. Once we have it, we have it. So this is something we have to think about now.
Much as possible. I mean, I barely was allowed to take holiday because I was the only designer. So if I was
bet.
off, then nobody could cover for me, and the company ended up with work stacking up. However, over the past 3 months, I'd say, I've noticed that my schedule at the company became like less and less cluttered.
And that's what sucks too, is a lot of people have been abused by these companies for years and years and years now, because they were the only person who could do their job, and then all of a sudden a computer can do their job, and then they're just not valuable. So this is something that I've talked about before, that you're trading your life to a company who genuinely does not care about you. That's the difficult thing about the modern work world, is that you're not guaranteed anything good. You never were, but in the past you were needed. So you were sort of guaranteed something good just by proxy. They would give you good retirement funds and all that stuff. But this is really sad. This is very unfortunate.
And it got to the point where I was getting paid for a 7-hour and 30-minute day, and some days only doing 2 hours of work.
I have engineer friends who say the same thing.
I loved it. Got up at 9 o'clock because it was work from home as well. I'd do 2 hours of work, and I'd have nothing left to do for the rest of the day. Maybe some revisions / amends would come in at like 3 or 4 o'clock. I'd do those for 20-30 minutes, and that'd be my day. I'd essentially do between 2 and 3 hours of work and get paid for 7.5. It was great for like 3 or 4 months. And then, yeah,
and then
on
you started
Monday
to get worried.
week, I got told that I'm being made redundant, and I was thinking, how could this be possible? You clearly need a graphic designer. The company I work at is a marketing agency who does email and web designs for clients. And yeah.
So this is the thing. There's a lot of people out there who think that they're irreplaceable, and you're not. When you're the best man for the job, that's a really good place to be in. But you're never irreplaceable. A lot of times people will take half of the employee for twice the person. We used to say this in bands all the time. I'd rather have half the musician and twice the person than have a really, really good musician who's impossible to work with. And if AI is 98% as good as you are, or there's someone who's really good at using it and maybe it's even better than you are, that's just what's going to happen. I hate that this is such a thing that we have to talk about and think about now. It's unfortunate, and people don't want to talk about it. People don't want to think about it. People want to ban AI and all this stuff, but you can't. It's not a controlled substance. It's not a drug. It's a thing that's going to advance the technological progress of not only America, but the world. And when you have these global economies working, I don't know if you've ever heard of a prisoner's dilemma, but the idea is that if half of the countries don't use AI, the other half of the countries stand to profit so much more by using AI. So there's never going to be a point where we can ban AI. We'll be shooting ourselves in the foot on a global scale. So you're going to have to find a way to make it work. You're going to have to find a way to keep people alive and happy while you're using these new tools. And this has happened over and over. Lots of people lost their jobs to automation when factories started becoming a thing. Every time that new technology is introduced that makes work more efficient, you lose jobs. And yes, you gain some jobs, but you don't gain as many as you lose by any stretch of the imagination. And they're going to thin down forever. That's what humans are working towards is the Wall-E thing, where we're all just sitting in chairs and binging content, and there's people who are making that content, but really the food is being made for us, the lights are being kept on for us, the minerals are being mined out of the ground for us, everything's being piped everywhere. And then you still have to figure out a way to feed these people and to get them, and that's complicated because we only live in a transactional existence. And once we don't have any value to give in a transaction, well, then what do? What's the human worth if it's not transactional is the question that a lot of people have to ask themselves. And there's a lot of people whose jobs are really in the balance right now that disagree with this statement and think that you should just let homeless people starve to death. And I think that they're going to get the most insane taste of their own medicine in the next 20 years.
I was a bit confused on that one. And then I did a bit of digging, asked a few people.
Be worried about a world where the billionaires are all old as shit and going to die before any of this hits the fan.
And it turns out basically all of the material that I've provided over the past 6 years is now being fed to AI and templated.
Totally.
So a design that would take me 30...
I bet in his contract it said that they own the work that he does for them. It's super unfortunate. I feel like you need a law degree just to not get taken advantage of in the job market.
Minutes. Now takes AI 30 seconds. As it's been trained on all my templates, essentially I think it just literally reuses my templates, and then they can input the hex codes they want the email or the website design to be, drag and drop in the client's logo, upload the client's font, and boom, it will generate my
sucks.
template, but using their brand assets. And I thought, it makes sense from a business point of view, but it's extremely scummy. It puts me out of a job. My immediate thought...
Businesses by definition are kind of scummy. This is coming from someone who runs a business. There have been so many decisions over the past 10 years of my life of, do I take advantage of people or do I do the right thing? And a lot of times the reason that I think that I'm where I am and my business is only as successful as it is because I've tried to err on the side of doing the right thing. And there's no reward for doing the right thing except for a clear conscience. And a lot of people don't have a conscience to keep clear anyways. So a lot of times businesses just become scummy. I've worked for so many companies that are paying their employees slave wages, and the owners of the company are on vacation all the time. I mean, multiple times a year, going on these crazy trips out of the country, doing insane things, and then coming back and showing us all photos. Like, we can barely afford to pay our car payment on time, and you're out there taking all these business trips. And I know that you have to work really hard to set up a business, and I don't really begrudge those people, but it is scummy. And I don't hate people for doing a thing that serves them. I get that that's human nature. I'm not angry about it, but to say it's not scummy is a lie. And I think that we tell ourselves that lie to make ourselves feel better, but it doesn't make it any less true.
Thought was, well, let's go to some competitor companies and see if they're
doing the same thing.
I've
If they want to
at
be competitive, they're
between
doing the same
10
thing.
and 15 competitors, and every single other competitor is doing the exact same thing.
100%.
Some of them even boasting about it on their website and going as far as simply inputting your website URL. It will extract all the assets and learn about that website.
Yeah.
And then artificially generate email and web templates for your brand. That is
In my field of technology, I mean, this is a big concern for a lot of people. The best part about it is that creativity can still reign supreme to a degree. Coming up with a new idea is something that AI has a little bit of a hard time doing, though not impossible. And the iteration is a thing that AI can sometimes have a hard time doing. You have a specific vision in your head. Sorry, my cat's down here. You have a specific vision in your head that you want to see. Sometimes it's a lot easier to get that out yourself by doing everything personally than it is to tell a computer and trying to get it to iterate to what you want it to be. And you can get within orders of magnitude of where you want it to be pretty easily. But if you have a specific idea, if you're making a video game and you want it to do a really specific thing, that could be a really hard thing for AI to put together. I don't think it's going to be impossible. I think in the future it'll be a huge tool in programming. But definitely knowing what the things are and how to manipulate them with the AI will still be a skill set. But I mean, I don't have a lot of faith that this is such a weird thing because I teach education, or no, I preach education to people. And I believe that educating yourself is one of the most important things that you can do to yourself because it opens your mind in a whole lot of ways and shows you these different pathways. And those pathways align with a lot of things that go on in life, and you can sort of understand the world around you better. And having a more educated population leads to better decision making. Better decision making leads to better governance. Better governance leads to better life for the people. And that's the thing that I think is actually important at the end of the day, is the life of the people. So, even with all that being said, I don't often think that I'm going to have a really good paying job one day that comes from me sitting at a desk and writing code. I would love for that to be the case. I would love for this degree that I'm getting to pay me back in dividends, but I worry that that's not true.
Is insane. Like, email and web designers are going to be
I have a lot to say on this topic if you can't,
out of jobs this year. Like, it just removes the need for us completely. And I think the graphic design industry is where most people cracked jokes about AI taking over. You know, oh, AI generation can't do it. It messes up the hands, or it gets things wrong. And
it makes
really
videos
like
now,
AI.
really good videos that look like real life.
Those days are past us.
Those days are over.
AI progresses incredibly fast. And I've used
technology
it
does in general
myself to see if it actually works. And I've asked some people, like, you know, hey, here's this drawing I did as a concept for like a video game character or a weapon or an environment, and they can't tell that it's AI anymore. It's progressed so far that I genuinely think within the next 6 to 12 months, many, like thousands, even tens of thousands of graphic designers will lose their jobs.
Yes.
And it's a serious problem because it's the main...
Now, this is the thing that I think about a lot. This is the reason I'm here doing this, right? Is because I have a vision for my life and my future that I'm trying to make happen. And I've learned a lot of skill sets to make that vision happen. I've learned how to do graphic design. I've learned how to play music. I've learned how to make videos. I've learned how to speak as well as I can. I've learned lots of different things to put together in a way to make my vision of what I want to do as close to reality as possible. And I think that working for someone else's vision is one of the worst things that you can do for yourself and should only be done when you need to do it. And I've needed to do it, and I will probably need to do it again. I'm not saying that I'm above this for any. I'll be right back there in a minimum wage job if I need to do it again, and I could see that happening any day of the week. So don't think that I'm putting myself above anybody. But you need to work on your vision. You need to figure out who you are and what you're going to do in this world. And you need to try to move yourself towards that as frequently as you possibly can, because I think that's the only chance of you having any value in the modern world. Now, once again, none of that means anything if 50% of people are starving and there's riots in the streets and all of the windows are being busted out and people are coming to your house and taking everything. But if the world holds together, I think the only chance we're going to have at a life that looks anything like what we imagine life to look like is to figure out how to make each individual person their own world that they can use in the way that they want to. Does that make sense?
Skill I have. You know, I've been a graphic designer professionally since I was 19. I'm now 27, about to turn 28.
Sucks, man.
So almost 10 years of my life. I went to college for this.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me that I literally went to college for something that's now going to be redundant in the industry?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
It's happening to a lot of people.
My fallback plan is literally a retail job, which I obviously don't want to do. I have minor experience in
retail
game
jobs
design,
will be gone eventually
but
too.
Nothing that will land
People
me
don't leave their homes anymore. People buy stuff completely offline.
a middle-rate
Stores
job.
are shutting down
I
like
have
crazy.
to get an entry-level job and take a massive pay cut
Yep.
of probably £4,000 to £6,000 a year. It's an incredibly difficult position to be in.
It's not
I
that
have a
massive.
house. I have a
It's pretty
mortgage
massive,
to
but it's not
pay.
that
I
massive.
have bills.
Yep.
I thought I was financially stable. So I have a couple of things on finance because obviously I thought I had money coming in every month. And the redundancy pay I will get will cover me for maybe 3 to 4 months, and then I'll be out of money. So I have 3 to 4 months to figure out my situation, which luckily is a decent amount of time. But other
It's not as much time as you think. As somebody who's currently working on a weird, big, sprawling career plan, I'm looking at, I think, a year before my life has any kind of dramatic improvement, unless things speed up at some point, which it totally is possible. There might be a snowball effect somewhere that I don't see, but it's not that much time. I think that if a company lays you off, they, for every year that you've been there, they should give you 2 months of pay. If they don't give you, I think really what should happen is that they should tell you a year ahead of time, and they should have to finance you for that year because they're already paying your salary. All they're doing is just taking a giant premium of money from this person. They should pay you for that year if you've become redundant by systems that don't cost them anything, and they should give you that money and maybe throw you a little bit of work whenever they need you to do it. But I think you should still get that money for at least a full year. It's unbelievable that you can give your best years to a company and they can just throw you in the garbage. Now, I know that's not realistic, and I know that that's probably never going to happen. I'm not living over here in a fantasy world, but in a perfect world, that's what I think should happen.
people
It would
won't
be
so
right.
fortunate. The only reason I get a good redundancy package is because I was there for 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Some people who have only been at a company for 1 or 2 years will not get a
nothing.
good redundancy package. It will be 1 month's wages and they send you on your way.
Yep.
And that's how it works in the UK. I don't know how it works in other countries. It could be worse. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not stressing too much right now because obviously I'm good for a few months. I can look for jobs. And I do know that obviously if I absolutely have to, I can land myself some kind of retail or warehouse or sales like entry-level job.
Maybe.
And I'll have enough money to survive.
If a huge portion of people are all being laid off in the same city at the same time, maybe you can get those jobs, but people might be running out of those jobs. Have you ever seen Fun with Dick and Jane? That's a movie where this thing happens, where a guy gets laid off, a whole company's worth of people gets laid off, and he looks for jobs and jobs and can't find it. And he eventually turns to crime, him and his wife do, because they can't make ends meet. And that's what happens when you put people in bad situations. They start making worse and worse decisions about how to survive because human beings are survivalists at heart. That's what they do. Most people aren't going to let themselves starve to death. You know, the only reason that you have as peaceful of homeless people as you currently do is because the majority of them don't starve to death. The majority of them are taken care of by the goodwill of other human beings. And if that isn't possible anymore, because there's not enough goodwill to go around anymore, because everybody's looking out for themselves because things have gotten so dark, well, things are going to get bad.
However, this like growth of AI in the industry is gonna completely destroy like my hopes and dreams of becoming, a senior or like creative lead
Yeah.
at a company, having my own juniors underneath me.
The people with the
apprentices,
money
stuff
think
like
they
that.
should always be in
Like, that is
charge.
my
They don't think
realistic
anybody else.
goal. Obviously, my
The people with the money think they should always be in charge. They don't think that anyone else has any good ideas that are valuable. Now, if you have a really good leader, that can happen. You can have people who start to find value in other human beings, but most people aren't really good leaders. That's just the fact of the matter. The majority of people who have a lot of money, it comes from places of luck. It comes from places of putting your head down and taking advantage of other human beings. People who have a lot of money very often aren't amazing leaders. Now, some of them are. Some of them definitely are, but a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are lucky.
My unrealistic goal is to run my own company or do YouTube or something like that.
Yeah.
But my realistic goal with the skill I have would be a senior/lead design position. And it seems like that's less and less likely to happen now because of the rise of AI. So yeah, as I said, I understand it from the company's perspective. I spoke to my boss about it. I very much understand his point of view. And letting people go isn't easy, but look, if you can let go of a couple designers and you save yourself tens of thousands a year, I do understand it from a business point of view. but it just sucks that this technology exists.
Yeah, it sucks for
Um,
him, for the person
so
that it
yeah,
happens to.
that's my
That's
current
what it
situation.
sucks.
It's
It's
not
not
great.
it's
The
not
past
a good thing all around. There are good things that will come from AI, true, but this sucks. And people don't have enough empathy in their hearts for the people that these things happen to. It's super unfortunate, but it's the truth. Look at the comments on YouTube videos, on Instagram videos. This guy probably has an outpouring of support, but go and find a more abstract situation, and people have no empathy. They don't care. Their job's fine right now, so they don't care. And by the time they do care, it'll be too late.
40 to 50 days have been terrible for me. I've lost my job. I had a secondary side business with my friend selling little plush toys. He's pulled out of that, so that business might not happen anymore either. And then my video game, which was like a third-person Halo game called Cross Planet, is also no longer in production because of disagreements and conflicts within the team. A couple staff members didn't agree with things, couldn't align and have a clear vision, so the project is ending after 3.5 years. So my whole schedule, as I know it, has been torn from me. I have 24 hours in a day, and absolutely 0 of them are allocated to something.
This happened to me during COVID. I was a manager at a restaurant, and it was really my whole life. My friends were all there. I had been there for a few years at that point, and it really had become a part of me. And March 13th, 2020, it was on a Sunday, I think. We noticed that there was no one coming in because of all this news of COVID. So we shut down early, and then one day later, the next morning, I got a call saying that I didn't have a job anymore. And there was a couple people who were going to be kept on, who had been there for longer than me, and they were going to try to do some stuff. And then that fell through, and those people didn't keep their jobs. And then months went by before they could open in full capacity, and they asked me to come back, not as a manager, though, taking a pretty big pay cut. And they said, "Oh, do you want to seat people at the door?" Like, no, I don't want to seat people at the door. That's not the job that I had. That's not who I was. That's not what was going on. I'm not taking steps backwards, and that's why the business started coming through, which is Artisan Bath Co. and now Artifacts in the Making of making soap and selling products and doing lots of stuff in that space. And I had to make that my life. I had to learn how to be a completely different person and do things completely differently and find new hobbies and rebuild everything. And it's been a 4-year process of me having this deep feeling of, if I can avoid it, I will never put my faith in someone else ever again. For myself and my livelihood and my well-being, never again will I do it, because they do not care about you the way that you care about you. That's how it is. How many people in your life that you work with do you care about the way you care about yourself? Probably none of them. That's just how it is.
Just completely free. Some may see it as a good opportunity to change my life around and dive into something new.
But no one wants
but
to have
that's
to do that. It's
dangerous and quite
scary.
scary. My boss told me that if he thinks that I would be happiest if I freelanced or if I ran my own business. Obviously, those things are true, but like I said, I have a
because you can
mortgage
just
to
do that
pay
magically.
and bills and stuff like that. And freelance is not sustainable for some people. You might have 2 months where you're extremely successful, and then you could have 5 where for some reason you just struggle to sell. In that situation, I would quite literally lose my house.
Yes.
So it's
It's been hard for
scary
us.
thing to dive into.
It's been hard for us over this time. There have been times where we don't know how bills are getting paid. There have been, recently, and we're 4 years, heck, we're 9 years into doing the business. We're 4 years into doing it full time. And still, it's really difficult. The markets are fickle. I didn't go to school for running a business. Luckily, Tiffany did. But still, it's really, really hard. And most people aren't capable of dealing with that. You know how many of my friends have told me I could never do what you do because it's too stressful. And I get that. I understand why people go and work jobs. You know where the money's going to come from. It works for a lot of people. It takes a specific type of crazy to say, I'm going to start this business that might not turn out well, and I'm going to throw myself into it, and I'm not going to have a safety net. Most people don't want to do that. And also, if everyone in the world has to do it, once there's not employees, once there's not people who are consumers, it's really hard to consume. If you guys have ever watched Black Mirror, you've ever seen the episode, I think it's A Million Merits or 10 Million Merits or whatever it's called. The episode where instead of working jobs, they all ride little bikes, stationary bikes that power society, and they earn merits through doing that. And that's how they, not physical goods they buy, just digital goods on their little screens. And they can skip ads and stuff with the merits. That's all they get, because there's no way to if people aren't making things and making profit, then there's no profit to buy things with. You have to sell goods that don't cost anything to make.
I don't think any of my
resources
family would
are
recommend
finite.
Trying to use
We have
my
one planet.
redundancy pay to keep me alive and start my own business. It's just it's not the ideal situation. It's the last thing that I'd try and do. So yeah, that's it. There's the live com for today. That's the situation I'm in. Does leave me with a lot of time to do YouTube. I think what I'll probably do is maybe take, take a week or two to myself, and then after that, I'm going to be heavily looking for another position and see how it goes. So maybe over the next 2 weeks, we'll see more YouTube videos or something. But the chances of YouTube turning into something that actually brings in money is
slim,
very unlikely. I do make a bit of revenue from YouTube, but it's nothing really. Somewhere in the region of £20 to £40 a month, which is absolutely not enough to even pay my food, never mind pay my mortgage. My YouTube channel is nowhere big enough. It's just, the money that I get from YouTube is enough to buy myself a nice pair of shoes at the end of the month, or I don't know, it pays for something a bit
going
of food, or maybe if something needs repairing, or I want a new game, Yeah, it's rough. So hopefully May and June, prove to be more positive. We'll see. Yeah, thanks for watching this video, and goodbye. If you're a graphic designer watching this as well, man, I highly recommend learning some new skills while you can. And don't ever template things. Don't provide the company you work for the templates. Claim your work takes longer than it does, so that you can have time to yourself to look into other jobs. Maybe do whatever you can and rinse the company you work for. Because at the end of the day, companies don't owe you anything. They're not obligated to keep you. If they find a way to get rid of you and replace you with AI, they will do. Don't ever feel obligated to provide a company what it needs. Give them the bare minimum, and that's it. Focus on yourself. Yeah, right.
Well, props to Nade Straight. Definitely give the video a like and subscribe to his channel if you haven't already. Props to him for going in with a brave face. It's terrible that this is happening, but this is the future. I really think that this is just the beginning of it. You're going to see countless jobs taken away. Wendy's is already working in AI ordering systems. They've just opened up the fully automated McDonald's. You're going to see a lot of people lose jobs who don't have skills to get other jobs. That's why they're working the jobs that they currently have, because it's all that they have available to them. You're going to have a lot of problems in the future for sure. And yeah, it's super, super dangerous. I don't want to continue to harp on the point. The video's already gone for a long time, but it's something to think about. And you guys should definitely consider it. That's it.